I do believe the money comes down. And then there's, of course, there's a few select stories that you see that are gaining traction. So I think the runway is clear for us at Scottie, but also more importantly for the industry. It's just been a very patient wait.
Brad Rourke, Scottie Resources. What's going on, man? How are you doing?
Hey, another day in the beautiful life of junior exploration. Happy to be here. Good to see you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that. So the gold market's ripping. Let's start with this here. A lot of the juniors are flat here though, but there's extreme value here. Why do you say that is? Just give me your 10,000-foot view on that. And then let's talk about Scottie Resources.
Well, it's natural progression that we can never get the timing right. What you see, we've been in a horrible market for the last 10 years, 12 years. However, everybody has their own couple little windows, 2016, 15, 18, da, da, da. What I've always said and what I truly believe in my heart and from an investing point of view is until those majors start moving and then the mid tiers, developers, it never trickles down to us in the category of junior exploration. And again, with these little head fakes that we've seen over the last 10 years, I would say now it is certain in the last, say, 3 quarters, the big producers are actually making money and they're coming out. In fact, developers probably a little bit ahead of producers right now. So that tells me the money's coming into the market. So I think it's just a matter of time, of which I never get the timing right. But, these things, if we bothered to listen to me a couple of years ago, this is part of my macro thesis. I honestly believe, now the price of gold has uh, gone beyond perhaps my expectations at this moment in time, but the equities haven't participated. Again, of course, your Enicos and Kinross's and even Barrick. I've owned Barrick for a very long time. It's been my dog, but even it's gone up probably 15 or 20% in the last 6 or 7 months. So, I mean, those are the signals to me. I do believe the money comes down. And then there's, of course, there's a few select stories that you see that are gaining traction. So I think the runway is clear for us at Scottie, but also more importantly for the industry. It's just been a very patient wait.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you said that. Actually, I had a conversation with Rick Rule. He gave a speech. This was in January, and I asked him more or less, let's talk about the speech. And it really made a lot of sense to me. It's really the timing he thinks, and I would share his thesis and your thesis, that really the timing is right now. And he told me on and off camera, and I talked to my friends on and off camera, you're going to see the big players move first, which we saw or are seeing, and then it will start trickling down. But yeah, I think the time is right now and among us. And that's really why I got involved in this space as an investor, as well as talking to people like yourself. Um, so what are you seeing? Let's talk about Scottie Resources. Really what makes you different? That being said, I want to tell all my listeners that Scottie Resources has not paid me for this interview. I am not as of yet an investor. That will be more than likely changing here very soon. So just full disclosure. Brad, what makes your story so compelling? And again, to all my viewers out there, please pay attention. I have already done my due diligence, but go ahead.
Sure. So whether you're considering Scottie or any other company in our space, things that you want to look at, is management bought in? First off, is it worthy of management's money? So please do your due diligence on that. I've certainly, I didn't start this company. I took it over. I was originally an investor and got frustrated not knowing how hard I'd make my life. But anyways, are the management in? I think we checked that box quite clearly. Are you working in the right jurisdiction? Now, there's a lot of hands-off places right now around the world, and because of there's walls going up around many countries. So are you in a jurisdiction that if you find something is going to even allow you to take that to the next step? So I think we check off that box. We're operating the Golden Triangle. Lots of success in and around me. Infrastructure. These are the questions that you should ask with every position that you own, and you don't have to have the infrastructure, but you better understand or have an idea of if it's to go to that next stage, what are the constraints there? And, and then where are you with permitting? Are you greenfields? I believe most people just see us as a junior exploration company, greenfields, but I think what's lost is, this was a past producing mine in the 80s, although it only for a short period of time. But this thing recovered a half ounce per ton. Because I have a permit and care and maintenance, I'll just be way quicker to that starting gate than perhaps the other people that I'm being compared with. And then just track record. I mean, I'm going into my 10th year. You go on our webpage, the progression of this company. Did we do what we say we're going to do? That's very easy to verify, from my point of view. And then, I think people, and if you look at who's been supporting us to this point, uh, they're a lot smarter than me and they know this business a lot better than I do. So we feel blessed that we do have the support from, some very big icons of the industry. So, I think those are the boxes that you need to check. And then access to capital is always one of those things, because there's a lot of great projects out there, but for whatever reason, if they can't get funded now, I think we've demonstrated that I'm in the right jurisdiction. I'm certainly the insiders own lots of stock that we paid for. Infrastructure's as good as anyone could ever imagine. I'm sandwiched between two mines, and my ability to raise money is really there. I've kind of unconventional, but a lot of the money raised is I've done personally, and it's what I used to do in previous lives, albeit in a different industry. So
Okay, so I want to work all of that out a little bit more here. And I want to give another full disclosure to all of our viewers and listeners. Brad and I spent some time here in Atlanta, and I got to know Brad really well. Now, Brad doesn't know I'm going to say this, but I want to. I was very impressed with Brad just being very aware of his shareholders' money. So as an investor, to all out there, that is one of probably the biggest box you need to check. Does Brad care about the shareholder and the shareholders' money? And I would say that is a resounding yes. So kudos to you, Brad. When our time together and our conversations, that meant a great deal to me. But let's talk about real quick. You mentioned, another thing that meant a great deal to me. You were in the Golden Triangle in BC. One of the issues I have with BC is, yes, it's great for assets, but you're looking at a 10-year window to get permitted. That is not going to be your problem, correct?
correct. Because we have a mine permit, a small mine permit, much like Osisko has at the Caribou project, it's in care and maintenance. Now, my neighbor is the old Premier mine, the Ascot. Now we use the same geological, the permitting consultants as they use. And so, yeah, our view on if we are to switch gears and go from exploration into a potential pseudo production, and these are the things that we've been exploring here in the last little while. Yeah, my path from start to finish is going to be a lot quicker than anybody else. We believe in 30 months, and that's just a number we pick out of the air. I mean, it could be a lot quicker because the province now has said they want to fast track things. Um, but it's just a decision we have to make it. But I think we're making this decision in the very near future. It can take a long time here and anywhere else. It's just the nature. But
Mm.
you want is to be secure with that. And again, Canada, yeah, we're a challenge, and it's getting harder for everybody around the world, but we're still deemed, we're allowing things. You look at ski, there's a lot of examples in my area of people being allowed to move forward. And Skeena is the one that comes to mind right away. And when I got involved in this, the power line wasn't even built to Pritium. And I was retired in a little town close to the asset. It was the whole idea is I knew they were going to build this $50 million power line to power the Bruce Jack line. So again, there is action happening, getting to completion. It's a hard business, but at least it's demonstrated that there's not going to be any hard stops unless something crazy goes on. But we're still one of the most important jurisdictions in the world that's going to allow things to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I love BC. I think it's beautiful and it's known for its mining assets. That all being said, it always frustrated me just because it's so long to get permitted. And it sounds to you, you're giving new information to me that they're fast tracking things now. But even more important than that is you have a mine permit. That is music to my ears. And that I'm going to tell that to all my viewers and listeners. That is very key. Taking care of capital and then, yeah, having a permit, that means that I can see the end game, if you would.
It's just going to be a lot quicker. I'd love to tell you I know that exact timeline. I don't, and nor does anybody else. But I've always given realistic assumptions, and so I feel very comfortable with that. And again, because I just watched my neighbor do it. They went, it was 10 months. They didn't have to go through an EA process, just like we would not have to because of the existing permit. And that's where I think a lot of the backlog gets up in British Columbia. And, I spent 28 years of my adult life in Smithers. It's pretty much the mining center for all of north of BC. So all those permitting people, I've got to watch this process go on since in my 20s. And I used to be in mining, the exploration business in my 20s. So that's 35 years ago or so.
You've been around a while. I'm not sure you want to drop those numbers. We'll give your age. But let's talk about the asset. And I want to talk about, if you could give us some names of insiders that own you, and then let's talk about share structure. So tell investors that are not aware what exactly you have and why, or what you can tell us, and why
Sure.
that's very attractive.
So let's just talk from the top bottom of share structure. So we just did a restructuring a couple months ago. Again, I didn't start this company. It traded for about 8 years before I took it over. It's the first restructuring that I've done, and we did a rollback, but we did it in a time of strength. And really what I wanted to do is we were at about 299 million shares. I'm looking at the asset going, this is, banging my head against the wall at a Canadian. I speak in Canadian dollars. I understand you're an American. Sorry. Canadian always said sorry. $50 million market cap. And I was just, I'm going, how can this be, So I took it down to a 6-to-1. And so it's just under 50 million shares outstanding, which should be attractive especially to Americans, because a lot of the feedback when I was going through the US last year and the year before is, Brad, you're 11-cent stock US. I buy my Goldman account, they charge me a penny, right? No matter what. And so what can we do? So that was one of the drivers of why I've done it. And then just perception, right? Now, it didn't hurt us. It didn't help us. We're right about exactly where we are. 93 cents today, I guess, or 90 cents Canadian. Heck, just call it $1. I'll give the benefit to the people. There's an awful lot of value there. If you know that I'm still have just under $7 million, hard dollars, cash, we don't owe a dime. We're getting valued at, I can't say how much per ounce in the ground because we don't technically have a resource, but you're going to see that resource come out this month, I believe. We're just working through the numbers right now and making sure it gets right. So I think structurally, the company's very clean from an investor's point of view. Now, dilution wise, I'm very concerned about dilution. In 2019, I owned 19.9% of the company and lending the company money. Right, I'm down to about 5% of the company now, of which I'm happy. I'm worried of dilution now because that 5% kind of is a psychological barrier for myself. But I'd rather own a smaller percentage of something big than a bigger percentage of something small. And I'm very comfortable that with what I've done in diluting myself. Now, going forward, now that we kind of have this fresh sheet of paper, it's very important to me that the next monies that come into this company is extremely strategic. And I believe that will achieve that because we built it so it's very attractive. And I think if your viewers have a look at that, they'll see it. Names, I think I just talk a lot, Andy, I'm sorry, but you
No,
asked
that's okay.
names
Yeah.
people in the story. So, I got Eric Mayer. There's some names I can't say.
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
over
you
20,
can.
let's say roughly 20% of the company's out of Switzerland, who I can say is Eric Mayer from Conway, but that's, hard, a tough nut to crack. A very, very intelligent human being and very good fund. The industry should know, if Eric Mayer came in, the biggest investor that we have right now and who's I work with very closely to go to this next stage is Kevin Jennings. Now, the world might not know who Kevin Jennings is, but just go look at his resume. I mean, he was a principal at, Barrick and Xstrata and the roles he played in Falconbridge and all these are at the very highest levels. And basically his specialty, he's an economic evaluator of mineral deposits. And so he owns, well, if you look at our insider buying of the last few months, I think he's over 10 and a half, maybe getting closer to 11%. We're not coordinating every day. He's buying and I buy. And I think every time you see my name, and he'll buy three more. He's much richer than I am for sure. But to have that support there, again, we have Eric Sprott. It's well known that Ross Beatty's supporting us. So very well-heeled guys that know this business more so than I. And then I'd also like to say, if you just look at my board and look at the past experiences they have, they run me. I mean, we had a board meeting yesterday and, they literally run me. I don't run the board just because they have so much more experience than I do. And then I'm so blessed to have that. So, I think it's structurally, it's good. Historically, if you look at, we've always did what we said we're going to do with the money year after year after year. That I'm very confident in that statement that nobody's going to dispute that. And really, we're going to see an MRE come out in the ore sorting, and we're making decisions if we're going to try and go to this DSO model, a direct shipping of ore model, which financially looks very, very interesting. And again, Kevin's running all that financial modeling. We've done this for very little money over the last, I self-funded it for the first 3 years, so to speak. I own 19.9, but I think I've raised under $40 million in total of this whole company. And when you look at the massive land package we have, we don't owe a dime to any piece of land. We've looked after that money quite well, albeit I can see a bigger burn coming in the future because I just can't keep doing this. We run mean, but I can see my future goes, okay, we're there. We're way undervalued. Now I'm going to deepen the bench. And these are things that we're working on right now and put some big bench strength in on this project. So.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that. And again, to all my viewers and listeners, that was my biggest impression, even more so than the resource. And I don't know exactly what the resource is. We didn't really have too much of that conversation, but it was just you not burning through investors' money. And I'll just tell all my listeners and viewers how I look at dilution and raising money. That's fine. I just want to see where it's going. As an investor, I don't want to, with all due respect, Brad, I just don't want to finance a lifestyle. I want to put a mind forward, if that makes sense to you. Give me the next, the plan here, what you can tell me, break it into the next quarter. What do you have coming that you can talk about? And then go take me through the end of the year. What do you see happening with Scottie Resources?
I believe that a lot of catalysts can come from this day forward. And let's say the next quarter, certainly we're going to get an MRE. I actually thought that I'd have this out for PDAC. I did tell people out there that I have that. Certainly, I don't even have the preliminary numbers. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to buy in the market. That'd be against law. But that MRE is coming out immediately. I'm more excited about the ore sorting study that we commissioned months and months and months ago. And, this whole idea of this DSO model, direct shipping of ore, and Kevin's brought all this to light where I was oblivious to it even, 6 months ago. But Scottie is one of the closest mines on the whole planet Earth, as close as we are to a deep water shipping facility. In fact, that facility would have been built for the Grand Duke mine and I operate out of the Grand Duke camp. The closest mine in the world is actually my neighbor Ascot. So, if you look at the business plans, Bruce Jack right now, about 13 trucks a day that they drive their concentrates to that same port. Skeena's business model, they're going to drive further than that, is to get to that port. I'm only 40 kilometers away from it. Like, I mean, a tenth of, or call it 20% of where they are. I don't want to stretch it in my favor. We'll under promise, over deliver. And I don't have to go on the highway and it's underutilized. So Kevin, because of his past, he was the CFO of Barrick Africa. He was, a principal at Xstrata. He has personal relationships and have been dealing with these smelters in China and metals traders his whole life. And so this was a area that just wouldn't have been, doors that would not have been opened to me. Hey, I'm Brad. I'm with Scottie Resources. I would never have gotten a return call. But because of Kevin's personal relationships, he's kind of been building the model on that type of scenario. And, we're very encouraged. We think that might be the path forward. And then there's a whole bunch of DSO, Eskay Creek or the Skeena, basically a DSO model, right? Because they've got it, going to ship a lot of that concentrates to smelters in China. Now we've done the metallurgy on our ore. We know we're compatible, low sulfur. We've done the met work on our ore, and we're in discussions with these, multiple entities that would play in that. And it's very agreeable. It's just us. It's a timing thing. If we make the decision, is the timing right? And so you can see that happening in the very, very near future, potentially. The MRE for sure, the ore sorting study coming out immediately. And then that allows us to do a PEA on the DSO model, because we don't have to put in a mill and a tailings pond. And so that's a rapid thing that could happen. Those are three big catalysts right there. And then let's say we do decide that option A is what we're going to go to, perhaps, potentially in the last half of the year, you just might see MOUs on financings and the actual contract for those ores. That's something that way different than we've ever had at Scottie. And, on top of, man, oh man, this resource is going to be, that comes out, and we're targeting, it's going to be close to 1 million ounces somewhere in there, but it's only 55,000 meters of drilling. I certainly can add more ounces. Nobody's going to argue, we're not cut off here or there, and this didn't work out. We've literally been playing shorthanded our whole existence. And so I can continue to add ounces. I'm feeling very comfortable with that. If you look at Michael Gray, who's written a beautiful report on Scottie, he's suggesting 3 million ounces. And I've only ever said I want to show a pathway to 1 million. I'm very comfortable saying I could target 2 million ounces. I just need the meters to get there.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it's very compelling, Brad. If people need to pay attention to you, because it sounds like a lot of, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of news dripping here, if not the next quarter, throughout the year. How do people follow you? And if they want to trade you, how do they find you in Canada as well as in the US? How do they do that? What are your tickers?
Sure. So Scott, SCOT, in the TSX venture. In the US, it's SCTSF, I believe. It's a QB listing, and we're contemplating going to QX now because I qualifying. We got my team working on that. Is it better and make it easier for Americans to buy? I believe a lot of my marketing efforts are going to be in the US only now. And then we're trading on Frankfurt FS8, I think it's called, but we're not doing a whole bunch of things out of Germany, but that listing only cost $1,000 or something. So a little bit different. The QV listing is very expensive and tedious. Yeah. So
excellent. Well, Brad, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to put everything that you just said in the show notes below. So if people want to buy you, they'll have access to that. Again, to all my listeners, Scottie Resources, Brad, have not paid for this interview. They have not sponsored any of this. We did this on our own accord. I met Brad here in Atlanta. I had a great time with him and just getting to know him as well as the resource. I am not as an investor as of today, but that is highly likely going to be changed over the next several days when you guys open back up. I want to really thank you for your time, Brad, and I would love to have you on again here soon.
I appreciate your time, Andy. Have a great day.
Take care.